This is Investor Perspectives. I'm the host of Investor Connect, Hall T. Martin, where we connect startups and investors for funding. In our new Investor Perspective series entitled COVID's Impact on Cybersecurity, you'll hear about growth in the cybersecurity segment. As the COVID pandemic passes, we emerge into a new world. The cybersecurity space is now undergoing tremendous change as we shift from a centralized to a decentralized workforce. Every business is impacted by cybersecurity. We have investors and startup founders describe the changes coming up. I hope you enjoy this episode. Our first guest is Greg Fitzgerald, co-founder of Cybersecurity. Headquartered in Austin, Texas, Cybersecurity is a company of cyber experts building services and products for cyber experts. They design solutions to solve hard problems associated with quickly discovering the context for who, what, where, why, and how network-connected devices relate on your network. Greg, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Great. Well, let's talk about COVID's impact on cybersecurity. And before we kick into that, tell us more about your work and what you do.
Well, thank you. I've been in cybersecurity for about 20 years now. I was in IT in terms of servers and cloud and even system software back in the 90s. And I've been very blessed, honestly, to be able to experience the advent of the expansion of IT as an important element of business, and then fall into the right spots here where cybersecurity has really become paramount to the risk of an organization, and then frankly the influence it can have on how a company performs or behaves in terms of stock and people getting hired and fired and liability, and it's continued to be a continuous problem and will continue to exacerbate over time as we continue to expand our IT environments.
Well, great. So cybersecurity is growing rapidly, but what's your perspective on the growth there itself? What are you seeing?
Cybersecurity is fascinating because it's the result of the expanded exposure of people's critical information, whether that be data, whether that be people's information, like PII they call it, personal identifiable information, healthcare information. And we're starting to see, a huge increase in the participants on let's call it the bad side. Before it might have been petty theft, little hackers, back just even 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where just somebody was curious and wanted to deface a website. Now, of course, we're seeing enormous Cold War of sorts of nation states that have taxed, America, and frankly, vice versa. America is inside and looking at nation states. But you've got a rampant kind of black market of bad folks that are organized. You also have various entities that are ideological and want to do things for a specific belief. Others are just damage makers, and then others are opportunists. And so we continue to see, like economically, why there's an entire industry of the bad side. And then, of course, that creates an entire explosive industry of the good side. So in the simplest way, it's good guys versus bad guys. And we're trying to leapfrog each other. The minute we get a cybersecurity capability that can kind of block the bad tactics, the bad guys figure out a way around it. And so it's a continuous life cycle.
Our next guest is Merrick Andlinger, partner and chief investment officer at Options 3 Ventures. Headquartered in New York City, New York, Options 3 Ventures specializes in finding and developing attractive investment opportunities at the frontiers of cybersecurity and immediately adjacent technologies. It brings a unique perspective to these industries, integrating the expertise and experience of its management and advisors in the United States national security community with their extensive operations and investment expertise gained in the technology industry and on Wall Street. The Options 3 Ventures team has worked together for the past 5 years, invested in 5 companies, and successfully exited from 2 of those investments. Merrick, thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here. Thank you all.
So tell us more about your work and what you do.
Well, I'm Chief Investment Officer at Option 3. We are a 6-year-old cybersecurity private investment firm. We focus on early stage equity investments in cybersecurity companies, and that's all we do. Our heritage comes from the national security sector, as well as people with Wall Street investment chops, and we work that duality. We have a tech board that's filled with former national security people, as well as Wall Street people. And we look for our deal flow coming out of that community, as well as out of the investment community. So rather than focusing, let's say, in Silicon Valley, we're focused in the Washington, D.C. to New York corridor.
Well, great. Well, let's talk about the growth in the cybersecurity space. What do you see going on there?
Well, there is a lot going on. You can't help but pick up the newspaper, turn on the TV, and hear about another breach, another ransomware attack. Something to be afraid of. And unfortunately, you're only hearing about the tip of the iceberg. That there's a lot of issues at work, and there are a number of different solutions. But I'll address that. What we've seen is the growth in cybersecurity as an asset class. And so from an investing perspective, when we set up the firm 6 years ago, it was pretty much a venture capital game, a traditional venture capital type of investments. Now, 6 years later, you'll see the full spectrum from early stage seed investing to late stage pre-IPO growth and even buyouts. And so now you've got across the full spectrum different opportunities, including exchange traded funds in cybersecurity. So from an investment perspective, there's growth all along, and those stocks have performed really well during COVID. From a cybersecurity company perspective, you're also seeing growth that's aimed at many of the kinds of attacks that we've seen. And COVID itself, this last year of lockdowns, work from home, has created a whole bunch of opportunities for malicious attacks, as well as created specific challenges. So that with work from home, people are using their own devices. They're logging into networks. They're exposing themselves more. You've got corporate IP spread all around. And as a result of this, there's funding and solutions aimed at those particular issues.
Our next guest is Christian Kamir, managing partner at Sesame Capital. Sesame Capital is a blockchain venture fund headquartered in Newport Beach, California. Aside from investing in blockchain-related projects, the firm lends its expertise to existing companies interested in security token offerings. Christian, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having me, Hall.
Great. So tell us more about your work and what you do in it.
Yeah, so we've been in technology investing for some 20 years at this point in time. We started out being focused mostly on voice over IP technologies and multi-massive online player games. And today we focus on decentralized software solutions. And a lot of people refer to it as blockchain. It's a little more nuanced, but anything that has to do with value transfer that makes economic activity more efficient, that's something that we're interested in. And you could also label it as the new Web.3 stack. I think we're going to talk about this for a little bit.
Great. Well, let's talk about the growth in the cybersecurity space. What do you see going on here now?
I just looked up the latest numbers. I look at these quite frequently, and I just was revisiting a couple of really good books that were written in that area. So I think a lot of people don't really know how big this space is. So damages for cybercrime this year being predicted to be around $6 trillion. Right. So to put this in perspective, GDP for the US was over 21 trillion. So that's like almost a third of US GDP that we caused, or that's expected to be caused in cybercrime this year. So usually the growth in that space year over year has been like between like 12 and 15%. But based on that, Gartner predicts that the revenues for that space will be like 133 billion for the next year. I think that we're going to surpass that by quite a bit, because I don't think it factors in that a lot of more people work from home. So the surface there increased by about 87%. As far as like vulnerabilities, like open PCs on the web that typically would just sit dormant all day. And the other part is that telemedicine specifically increased by 157%. And so that is a very sensitive area that needs to be protected regardless. And then lastly, and that's kind of a space that we play in a lot, you got a lot of honeypots. What I mean by that, so the cryptocurrency space is now 1.7 trillion. And a lot of these, let's call it online wallets, right? They are honeypots. So they are a very, very attractive target for hackers, to put it this way.
Our final guest is Andrew Morris, founder at Gray Noise Intelligence. Headquartered in Washington, D.C., Gray Noise helps security analysts save time by revealing which events they can ignore. They do this by curating data on IPs that saturate security tools with noise. This unique perspective helps analysts confidently ignore irrelevant or harmless activity, creating more time to uncover and investigate true threats. Andrew, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us more about your work and what you do in it.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO over at Gray Noise Intelligence. I started the company about 3.5 years ago. We really focus on making the security analysts as efficient as possible. There are a zillion security companies out there that are completely focused on telling the security team where all the bad guys are and where all the threats are. And so we don't try to do that. We actually, we try to chip away at the amount of alerts that probably don't matter to the analyst. And so that way, what we do is we're actually making the analyst more efficient by telling them all the things that probably don't matter, that they can deprioritize and focus more on the ones that do matter. And so that's what we spend all of our time doing.
Great. Well, let's talk about the growth in the cybersecurity space. Where do you see it moving going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's been a really interesting, I would say, resurgence of going back to the basics lately, which I find really interesting. So the security industry's been around for, I'd say maybe 20-ish years, the cybersecurity industry properly. And it's really exploded lately. I mean, really in the last 5 years has just seen just a massive explosion in investment, in major acquisitions, and in new companies popping up in the security industry. And the industry itself has grown to be substantially larger. And it's almost, I would say, overwhelming the amount of companies that are providing solutions in the cybersecurity space. And one of the patterns that I'm seeing a lot lately, which I'm really excited about, is that we're going back to a lot of the basics that a good security program is kind of built on top of. Questions like, before I think about even securing all my stuff, where is all of my stuff, right? Like, where are all of my machines, right? What are all the accounts that we have? Where are all of our servers? Where are our data centers? Where are our users? Where is our data? Things like that. That's like a very basic question. And so we're starting to see more companies that are popping up on things like asset management and attack surface and things like that, which I'm really excited about. On the other side of that, we're starting to see a lot of companies that are popping up specifically just to address concerns that have been created by other security products, kind of, I would say, not necessarily solving the problems all the way, or solving the problems in a way that is impractical for practitioners. And so there's a lot of security companies that are coming up trying to take creative approaches like machine learning, ML, et cetera, to making people more efficient. That's actually where we play in a lot more. Instead of just saying, buy our product, all your cybersecurity problems go away, we're starting to see more security companies that are coming up like, well, that's not really our focus. We just want to make you more efficient at X. We want to make you more efficient at Y. We want to try to increase efficiency to try to end up generating returns to the user and to the business in that way, rather than completely, claiming to protect the customer from the cataclysmic breach. And so those are two trends that I'm seeing that personally I'm really excited about. There's also a lot of consolidation happening. So there are a lot of major acquisitions that are occurring from usually, publicly traded companies. The same kind of 10 are doing lots and lots of acquisitions, and I expect to see more and more consolidation.
Thank you for joining us today. As always, be sure to leave a review, subscribe to this podcast, and share it with others. Let's go start up something today. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.